This episode is brought to you by Hasa. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to call this Bad Day Out on the Pool Route. So I'm going to go over some things that happen out there and have happened to me that really kind of ruin your day. And of course, every day is different. Not every day can be perfect and, roses and whatever, butterflies. So there are going to be some bad days out there. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy coaching program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. Of course, traffic is one thing that, for me, is an irritant living in Los Angeles County. You deal with it all the time, and my family will tell you that I'm probably the person that's most upset whenever there's a traffic jam on the freeway. And I've been in some really bad traffic jams, by the way, where they're even like landing a helicopter on the freeway and the freeway's closed for a couple hours. I think one of the worst situations I had was when the local freeway here that I take, the 210 freeway, was actually closed from the whole freeway was closed down for most of the day, and all the back roads were congested. I think it took me like 2.5 hours to drive what normally would take me 25 minutes. And of course, that ruins your day. So those are things that you can't predict or stop or fix. It's just something that happens. So there are a lot of things that will kind of ruin your day. And I'll go over a lot of these here for you. And you'll probably experience some of these. And they're really not preventable. But if you know about them, you're aware that the situation can happen. And you can understand that you can work through just about any kind of problem out there that happens. I'll start with this one. And this happens sometimes when the customer is using their pool and they don't think about it. They're having a party on a Saturday. And let's say your service day is a Thursday. And they'll leave the pool on spa mode, have the pool running all week. But the pool is not actually running all week. It's in spa mode. Every day the spa is coming on for 8 hours and turning off. And the pool is just sitting there stagnant all week long. And in the summertime, this means that the pool is going to develop a pretty good sized algae bloom in most cases. And the customer, for some reason, I don't know why this is, they never notice that like the pool is not circulating or running. And, when you tell them, hey, you left the pool in spa mode and you have this algae bloom and I was there for extra time treating it, they'll be clueless. They'll be like, what? We left it in spa mode? How did that happen? Well, it does happen, and it will happen to you on your route. So just be aware that in the summer when people are using their pool, this could be a problem you run into. Now, there's a couple of things you can do to, let the customer know that there's going to be an extra charge for the chemicals, because a lot of times you're shocking it, treating the algae and bringing it back. But there are a few things you can do to prevent it becoming a disaster. And you hear me talk about these chlorine enhancers all the time, but I really believe in them because they are a way to offset a disaster like this, and also offset the second thing that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. If you use a PoolRX, or if you use borates to 50 parts per million, or if you use a combination of enzymes and phosphate treatment every week, this really will offset this, and it's not going to be a major disaster. It'll just be a minor annoyance in most cases, because there's going to be enough of the element the chlorine enhancer in the pool for that 4-day period to kind of protect it from the algae bloom. If you don't have the PoolRX or the borates, or if you're not using any kind of other enhancer in the pool, there's a few other ones I don't talk about often, but they do exist out there. Then when this happens, the pool is going to take its natural course and algae will form with no circulation. There'll be no chlorine in the pool, and it could be a big mess. So the enhancers are really an insurance policy sometimes, to where when something like this happens, it just becomes, again, something minor and not a major disaster. And I've run into this before, and you'll probably run into this as well, where the customer is having a pool party and they don't inform you, and you should make this known to the customers, especially those that have kids and use the pool a lot. If you ever have a chance to converse with them, or when you first get the account, let them know that, if you're having a pool party or a big event, let me know that week and I'll make sure the pool is ready for it. Because typically you would want to shock the pool and bring it up to a certain level and do things to the pool prior to that. Put in some non-chlorine shock, whatever you do to get your pools ready for a party. What I usually do is I bring the chlorine level up to the highest point possible to where it's not going to be irritating, so about 10 parts per million. And then I will put in a couple bags of non-chlorine shock. I'll also leave a bag of Cal Hypo with the customer and a couple bags of non-chlorine shock as well. And I'll tell them before the pool party, throw in these 2 bags, and they'll throw them in there. And this will help the non-chlorine shock, I'm saying, not the Cal Hypo. And then after the pool party, I'll have them put in the Cal Hypo just to bring up the chlorine level if necessary. So these are all things that you can do for those party situations. But a lot of times customers won't tell you they're having a party. So you'll get to a pool, and I've had this happen before. And again, this is why those enhancers are really great to have. So this was with a pool that was gigantic. It was like 30,000 gallons. They heated the pool to 95 degrees over the weekend. It was pretty crazy. They had a big party. So when I got there, I think I was there on a Tuesday, I put my hand in the pool and it was like still in the 90s. And I was like, wow, what happened here? And of course the chlorine had zeroed out. But fortunately for this pool, I was using 2 black PoolRX units in the pump. They had 2 separate pumps and filters. And I was using 2 black PoolRX units in that pool. And really, even though the pool was heated at 95 and the chlorine has zeroed out after the weekend party, it looked actually really good. I didn't really see any algae. It was clear, and I was really thankful that I did have those PoolRX units in that pool as my insurance policy for something like this happening. So yes, the customers will heat their pool, have a party, not tell you, and it's one of those things that can happen out there, and it can be a major disaster, especially if they had the party on a Saturday and you're not there until the following Friday and the pool is heated, and they tend to leave the heater on. So it's one of those things where I text the customer, I'm like, oh yeah, you had a pool party over the weekend, your heater's still on, by the way, so I guess it's a good idea to jump in the pool and use it this weekend as well, or use it during the week. And the customer usually texts back, it's like, oh man. And one thing that can actually prevent this from happening, by the way, and this is area dependent, but if you're in Southern California and the customer is with Southern California Gas, they can actually get alerts when they're using too much of the gas. And this happens to one of my customers one time where he texted me when I was on my route saying, hey, I think on vacation, my relatives are there and I think they left the heater on. Can you run by and turn it off? Because I got an alert saying that I'm using a lot of gas. And sure enough, I went by that pool and the heater was on and they had left the heater on. They had used the spa, put it back in pool mode and left the heater on, so I turned off the heater. But those alerts are important too for you as a homeowner and for you as a pool service provider. Let the customers know that there is that alert system by the gas company. I'm pretty sure all the gas companies have this, and they'll get a notification on their phone saying that they're using a large amount of gas. And so this is one way to prevent that kind of heater on all week effect. And you'll be like the hero when they get an alert one day and they can go turn off their heater. So this happens, the heater being left on, a pool party not letting you know, or leaving the pool in spa mode after a pool party. And one more thing that could happen, similar to these things, is someone with a standalone variable speed pump, when they're having a party, they don't like the noise of the pump, so they're going to hit stop or they're going to hit off on it. And what happens is that they don't turn the pump back on, and this leaves the pool off all week basically. So I like to educate the customer that if they're having a pool party and they don't like the noise, yes, you can turn the pump off, it's better if the pump is running, I tell them, because when people are using the pool, it's better if the pool is circulating. It's just a better experience, and of course, it keeps the pool from having problems. But if they insist on turning it off because the pump is too loud, and I understand if the pump is really loud next to the pool, make sure that they hit the on button again or the start button again, because let them know that unless they do that, the run cycle or the weekly timer doesn't come back on and activate, and basically the pool will sit off all week long, and it'll be a major problem. So just educate the customer ahead of time that if you do turn the pump off for whatever reason, pool party is usually the reason, make sure you hit the on button or start button again, and that will put it back in its normal time cycle. There's really no way to override that for you, and it's something that just happens out there, and just let the customer be aware of that problem, and that's usually a good way to prevent it. If it happens once, I let the customer know right away what they did wrong, basically, and if they're home, I have them come out there and I show them this is what turns off the pump. Unless you restart it, it's going to leave it off all week long. And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. Other things, of course, out of your control is a mechanical failure with your vehicle. It's one of those things that can be frustrating. I had a Nissan Frontier that had it ended with over 200,000 miles on this thing. Put a new engine in at about 120, 140. I can't remember when I put the new engine in now. And it just had some problems, and it was kind of a headache to have these problems. But the problems you're going to have mainly is with the starter, because you're turning the truck on and off, 20 or 30 times a day. And eventually you're going to try to turn your truck on, you're going to hear the click, click, or you're going to, it's just going to be one of those things where the starter is dead. Also, the battery tends to die a lot because you're turning it off and on a lot as well. And so you'll go through a lot more batteries, I think, than most normal drivers will go through. And fortunately, there's AAA. So I like having the AAA battery service, because what they'll do is they'll put a new battery in for you if your battery dies. And then they'll warranty that battery, of course. But then 2 or 3 years down the road, when your battery dies again, you call AAA, and they'll just swap it out on the spot. So it's really effective because you don't lose any downtime, maybe 20 or 30 minutes. If your battery dies while you're on your route, call AAA. And by the way, you should get a AAA membership. It's not super expensive, and you get 3 service calls per year, and hopefully you don't use them all up in that year on your truck. I've done that with my Frontier. And then I kind of had to borrow time from my wife's AAA card. She'll call it in for me, but that's another story there. And they also change your flat tire. So all these things are great to have the ability for them to come out and do that. But the battery service is really good, because then they'll swap out the battery and you don't have to worry about it. If it dies again 2 years later on your route, they'll come out and put a new battery in for you. And there's no real downtime at that point. And I'll admit, sometimes we cause our own problems out there on the pool route by not following the routine and forgetting to do things. I haven't really forgot to clean a pool. I have dreams about forgetting to clean pools. You probably had these dreams before, they're anxiety dreams where you have this pool route, and in your dream you forget to clean certain pools, and time goes by in your dream and you're like, oh, I gotta, these pools, I missed these pools. I didn't clean them. I had one dream where I had an account where they had 2 pools on the property, and I kept forgetting to clean the secondary pool that was on the property. This didn't exist, of course, just in my dream. So forgetting things at the pool, or forgetting to do things, you can cause a lot of problems for yourself. And I've done this on several occasions where I've forgotten to turn off the automated system. I'll put it in service mode when I'm cleaning the filter or something, and then I forget to put it back in auto mode. And the customer calls saying, hey, my pool's been running 3 days straight without turning off. And then I go over there and I see that I've put in service mode. So I rarely use service mode, by the way, unless I have to. I'll just use timeout mode. That way I know that in 3 hours it's going to go back into the auto mode. And sometimes the customer will call you saying, hey, my app says it's in timeout mode. What's going on? But I use that mode so I don't forget to turn the pool back on, because if you put it in service mode on automated panel, it's just going to run 24/7 or be off 24/7 depending on what you have it set for. I've also forgot to put chlorine in the pool, and this happens when I get out of my routine. I like to put the chemicals in at the end of my stop so I don't forget anything. And if I get a phone call or if I'm out of my routine, I have to go to my truck to get something, I'll sometimes, and this has happened not too often, but it does happen, I'll forget to put tablets in the floater, or I forget to put the shock in the pool that I was going to put in. And then I get back there the next week, and of course the pool has a major algae bloom, and I open up the tricolor floater or the tablet feeder, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to put a tablet in here. So I see what happened. So yeah, that can happen to you. So just be more cognizant of a routine and not making that mistake. And it's going to happen. I mean, you're going to forget to do something at the stop. It's invariably going to happen because we're human. We make these kind of mistakes. But if you stay in your routine, this is going to eliminate that factor by like 98%. And you're not going to forget to put chemicals in because you're in this routine that, okay, I do this and I'll do this. And I always look back, by the way, when I'm leaving the account to make sure I didn't do anything like leave the skimmer basket on the deck, which I've done before. You know, I get distracted, I'm doing different things. So I always take a backward glance at the pool to make sure everything's good. And this is important to do to make sure that everything is set and you didn't forget to do anything. If you see the tricolor floater on the deck, you know that you didn't put the tablets in the pool. And I'll end with this one here. And this is probably the one that, you know, besides traffic and having car problems, is something that not only ruins my day, but brings my anxiety level up to like, 1,000%, because if you're in the backyard and you open the gate and the dog bolts out, the family dog takes off running down the street, of course my anxiety level goes up, because I had a husky for many years that got out and I was chasing her to the neighborhood, and I was worried about her getting hit by a car, and almost happened a few times because she was an escape artist for sure. But my anxiety goes up to the point where it's like I can't think sometimes when this happens, and I'm chasing the dog and I'm worried about it getting hit, and I'm thinking about the family being upset. So this is something that you're probably going to experience if you haven't. And, fortunately, I've never had a problem getting the dog back in the yard, which is good. Usually I'm in a suburban area, so it's not like 1,000 cars go down the street. But yes, it can be a situation where your anxiety level goes up and you really have to get that dog back, or let the customer know the dog got out, and your day is kind of ruined, because not only do you spend 10 minutes chasing the dog and finally getting it, but your anxiety and adrenaline level is so high that you're like exhausted. So this does happen. There's really not much you can do except be very cautious when you open the gate and don't let the dog out. I carry these chicken chew rawhide treats on my truck. I get them on Amazon. You can get a bag like with 100 or 200 of them in there, and they're chicken flavored rawhide. They're not super large, they're fairly decent size. And what I do is, when I have an account where the dog tends to be a problem where it can bolt, I'll get one of these rawhides and I'll toss it in there, and the dog will go for it. Then I'll get in and out of the gate, no problem. And I make sure I latch the gate. It's one of those things where you're technically at fault because you let the dog out, and you just want to make sure that you do whatever you can not to let the dogs get out. And I've had, I would say, over the years, more than half a dozen dogs get out on me for whatever reason. Carelessness, the gate didn't latch when I thought it did, or when I opened the gate, the dog bolted out. So it may happen. Just realize that you can get the dog. Don't worry, you'll get it. It'll get tired. The dog knows its neighborhood usually if it goes for walks, and so it tends to run, but then it goes to areas, to marked territory. It'll slow down. It doesn't really realize what it's doing in some cases, just out for a walk basically. And so you can usually trap it. Sometimes a neighbor will help you. But I find that the small little dogs are the ones that are the hardest because they're so fast, and they'll kind of stop and slow down and then bolt a different direction. So it's one of those things where hopefully nothing ever happens to the dog on your route if it does get out. And something to, of course, be aware of and be extra cautious of this happening. And it can definitely ruin your day. If you're looking for other podcasts, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon. There'll be a drop-down menu with over 1,800 podcasts for you there. And if you're interested in the coaching program, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.